bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game.
Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Welcome, Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man, today's Tuesday, August 29th, 240 days into the new year, just 125 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planets. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? Now, tonight we have a very special guest here in Clifford Mahooty, Zuni historian. Now, it's been a long road getting Clifford on this show, but tonight is an important show. You're going to want to listen to this more than once, and you should. But sit down and get comfortable because we're about to get our education on tonight. Clifford Mahooty is here, the Zuni Prophesies. We're going to go through a full history lesson tonight. It's not done often enough. We try to do it as much as we can here on Fade to Black. And it's about educating and giving you those tools that you need to move forward in life and make decisions and figure out why you are here and where you are going, right? It's all a part of this big puzzle we call life, and Clifford Mahooty is one of the brightest. So get ready for that tonight. Tomorrow night, Ray Davis is going to be here. We're going to do a full evening of Anunnaki on the show. Haven't done that in a while. First-time guest, as well as Clifford tonight. And then Thursday night's going to be another Fader night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom live. And the call-in numbers are 323-825-5045 or 323-275-9695. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio, Facebook, YouTube. You know what to do. Go over to JimmyChurchRadio.com and follow, like, and subscribe. The Sandbox, if you want to hang out. Yes, we have chat rooms over at KGRA. We have the chat rooms over at Spreaker. And then, of course, we have the Sandbox on Twitter. The Sandbox on Twitter is hashtag F2B. You want to come and hang out with the rest of the Fadernauts over there? Of course, there's Fadernauts in Spreaker and over in KGRA and all over the place. So you just pick your choice, right? Pick your poison. And everything is up and live in front of me, and I'm looking at the chat room. Yes, good evening, everybody, and good evening to everybody on Twitter. You can also email throughout the show, Jimmy at JimmyChurchRadio.com. All right. Now, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. We have over 700 archive shows right there. Just $2 a month. All platforms. Everything is there. You go to iTunes. You can go to the Google store and get what you need. Everything is there for download. And then you go back to Libsyn and sign up for your account. Just $2 a month. Or you can become a Fadernaut in our membership area. The membership section on our site is fully secure. You'll get the bumper cam, commercial-free downloadable archives, and you can even get the Game Changer, which has all of that Fade to Black gear that you know that you want. And don't forget to check out all of our sponsors. Life Change Tea. By the way, the bunker does smell of this oil of oregano. Oh, man. Kind of smells like a pizzeria. No, it does smell like a pizzeria, actually. Man, that is some potent stuff. Oil of oregano. Just don't drink it. And so, Life Change Tea, get the tea.com. River Moon Coffee, the best. Oh, my God. I can't even tell you. Every time I say River Moon Coffee, I have to take it. That's how addicting it is, really. There's something about River Moon Coffee, right? You take one sip, you buy a pound, and you are done. You're done. Nothing has the flavor, the jolt, the tones of River Moon Coffee. Fade to Black Blend. It's the absolute best. River Moon Coffee. New Pharma. That's right. GNU Pharma. Right there. I think the promo code is F2B for New Pharma. It's in the banners over on our site. Of course, Ancient Life Oil. Sacred Skulls. I just put up in Twitter. I don't know if we have Sacred Skulls up on the website yet, but we will. I think we tried to get that done today. Sacred Skulls, the links to the website were put up in Twitter. We'll get that retweeted now. And, of course, Studio Dome speakers. Support our show by visiting all of our sponsors. We only have the sponsors that we have. It's a family. All of their products are correct. We use all of them. Right? And that's the deal. We just don't bring on advertisers for advertisers. That's not how we do things here. We're very, very selective. There are advertisers out there that are listening right now going, Church, man, why aren't you returning our email? Why are you turning us down? Why are you saying no, man? Isn't our money any good? It's not about that. If it was, we would have all kinds, but no. Our sponsors are very special to us, and it is a family, and the audience is family. So please go and visit all of our sponsors, check out their products, and help support the show. Help support yourself. It's really that simple, isn't it? All right, let's get this show cracking. Our dead guys' birthdays today are Michael Jackson, 1958 to 2009, died here in Los Angeles at the age of 50. And Charlie Parker, 1920, Bird. That's right, Bird. 1920 to 1955, died at the age of 34. And I was watching some Charlie Parker film clips today. He was that. I mean, he was singular talent. And him and Michael had the same birthday. I thought that was pretty cool. But Charlie Parker died at the age of 34. He had lots of issues, cirrhosis of the liver, and he had some other things. And he died of, natural causes. But in the autopsy, this is what's crazy. He died at the age of 34. And in his autopsy, the doctor that did that literally wrote that he appeared to be around the age of 60. Trip on that. Charlie Parker. Bird. Yardbird. Bird. Charlie Parker. One of the greats, man. Died at the age of 34. Crazy. On this day in history, OTD. Man. Yeah. All right. 2005. Hurricane Katrina makes landfall near New Orleans, Louisiana, as a Category 4 hurricane. How crazy is that with Harvey going down right now? And, of course, New Orleans just narrowly escaping the storm today. It appears to have traveled east and has gone past New Orleans, and hopefully they're going to stay sort of dry there, especially during the anniversary. Pretty crazy. Fate or fact. Now, okay, I know this is going to sound unbelievable, but this is a fate or fact. It's vetted. You can go and check it out for yourself. But here it is. A couple of teaspoons of Botox would be enough to kill everyone in the United Kingdom. 2 teaspoons. A kilogram would kill off the whole planet. It is the most deadly toxin known to man. That's it. There is nothing deadlier. And women and men around the world are injecting this into their face. And you always wonder, you see somebody that's, that can't move their mouth or smile or, yeah, exactly, Eric. You see stuff like that. And you go, man, what's the issue? It's Botox. And the reason is it is so toxic, right? So obviously what is being injected into faces is completely diluted and watered down. Otherwise people would die. But the point is this. It kills the nerve endings. The nerve endings in your face, the nerves, the ends of it kills them. That's to erase wrinkles. And that's why nobody can smile or move their face because they don't have any nerves left. Isn't that nuts? Botox, the most deadly toxin in the world. 2 tablespoons wipe out the UK, including Ireland, by the way. Nuts. All right. There you go. So I thought I'd spread that good cheer. Botox. All right. Tonight, Clifford Mahooty is with us. Very excited about this. We are going to have a full history lesson on North America tonight. Tomorrow night, Ray Davis is going to be here for a full evening of Anunnaki. And, yeah, the inventor killed himself. Coincidence? Thank you for that. Blueprint New Media. Who is? Oh, okay. All right. I dig it. Somebody's listening to the show. I like that. Okay. Clifford Mahooty. Tomorrow night, Ray Davis is here. And then Friday or Thursday night, Fader Night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom live. Now, let's have a talk. In the field of psychology, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias wherein persons of low ability suffer from the illusion of superiority, mistakenly assessing their cognitive ability greater than it is. The cognitive bias of this illusion of superiority derives from the metacognitive inability of low-ability persons to recognize their own ineptitude. Without the self-awareness of metacognition, low-ability people cannot objectively evaluate their actual competence or incompetence. Now, listen to me. IPD, the DK effect. I was right. Now be careful, IPD. Are you saying, what side of the DK are you on? Be very careful. Are you insinuating me? Or are you insinuating the audience? Are you insinuating trolls? Are you insinuating fadernauts? Are you insinuating something? Or the UFO community. Where are you going with that? Well, I'm going there. So let me help you out. As described by David Dunning and Justin Kruger, the cognitive bias of illusion superiority results from an internal illusion in people of low ability from an external misperception in people of high ability. That is, the miscalibration of the incompetent stems from an error about the self, whereas the miscalibration of the highly competent stems from an error about others. Therefore, the corollary to the Dunning-Kruger effect indicates that persons of high ability tend to underestimate their relative competence and erroneously presume that tasks that are easy for them to perform also are easy for other people to perform. Do you understand so far? I know that you do. Although the Dunning-Kruger effect was formulated back in 1999, the cognitive bias of illusion superiority has been referred to in literature throughout history. The psychological phenomenon of the illusion of superiority was identified as a form of cognitive bias in Kruger and Dunning's 1999 study called The Unskilled and Unaware of It. How difficulties in recognizing one's own incompetence lead to inflated self-assessments. Wow. Think about this. So anyone outside of a bar at 2 a.m., well played there, Dan. Well played. And that includes the both of us. I like that, including that night that you and I closed that bar in Big Bear. Yeah, the psychological phenomenon of illusion superiority was identified in this 1999 study. It derived from the cognitive bias evident in the criminal case of MacArthur Wheeler. What's that? Smooth my hair down? What does that mean? Is my hair out of place? Rita says, I have a horn. Do I have a horn? Oh, man. It was the criminal case of MacArthur Wheeler, who robbed banks with his face covered with lemon juice. Now, he believed that the lemon juice would make his face invisible to surveillance cameras. Some things you can't make up, right? Wheeler's incompetence was based on his misunderstanding of the chemical properties of lemon juice as invisible ink. You remember that? You remember in grade school? That was the first thing that you were taught about invisible ink, right? You could take lemon juice and take a toothpick and write out your message on a piece of paper, and you couldn't see it, and then you would heat the paper, right? On a radiator or a heater, and it would blow on it, and then you would flip it over, and boom, brown ink there, and you could read it. Invisible ink. Now, think about the incompetence that is here. But he thought he was smart. Other investigations of the phenomenon, such as why people fail to recognize their own incompetence, and that was published back in 2003, indicate that much incorrect self-assessment of competence derives from the person's ignorance of a given's activity standards of performance. The pattern of overestimation of competence appeared in studies of reading comprehension, of the practice of medicine, of motor vehicle operation, and of the playing of games such as chess and tennis. Dunning and Kruger's research also indicates that training in a task, such as a logic puzzle, increases people's ability to accurately evaluate how good they are at it. It makes sense, right? Olivia, that is wonderful. That's going to get a retweet. Well played. In Self-Insight, Roadblocks and Detours on the Path to Knowing Thyself, published in 2005, Dunning described the Dunning-Kruger effect as oh man, I can't believe I just did that. Which is why I am doing this about the Dunning-Kruger effect. Listen to me. I recognize that anybody can do this job. I feel that. I feel that I am one of you. And I am just the guy on the microphone. When I get somebody that comes up and says, man, you're a great host and I love listening to you and I put you in this class above everybody, my answer is always the same thing. You know what? I'm lucky and I'm blessed to be here. I was always a fan of radio, sitting on the other side, and I wanted to one day hopefully be put myself in the position of being able to ask the questions that I've wanted to ask over the years. And they built up in my head. I'm talking about decades, right? And I just wanted to be here. Finally, I am in the position to do just that. And I've got a gazillion questions that still need to be answered. They just pile up and pile up and pile up, right? But I have my issues. I have my issues, like trying to get through a report on Dunning-Kruger and what it is. I recognize that. So where does that put me in all of this? Let me continue. He stated, Dunning-Kruger said that the condition in which a disabled person either denies or seems unaware of his or her own disability. He stated, if you're incompetent, you can't know you're incompetent. The skills you need to produce a right answer are exactly the same skills you need to recognize what an answer is. Dunning and Kruger tested the hypothesis of the cognitive bias of the illusion of superiority on undergraduate students of introductory courses in psychology by examining the students' self-assessments of their intellectual skills in logical reasoning, which was inductive, deductive, and abductive, English grammar, and personal sense of humor. Now, after learning their self-assessment scores, the students were asked to estimate their ranks in the psychology class. And this is where it gets interesting. The group of competent students underestimated their class ranks, while the group of incompetent students overestimated their ranks. Yet the incompetent group did not estimate their class ranks as higher than the ranks estimated by the competent group. Across 4 studies, the research indicated that the study participants who scored in the bottom quarter of the test of their sense of humor, knowledge of grammar, and logical reasoning overestimated their test performance. And they overestimated their abilities, despite test scores that placed them in the lower 12th percentile, the very bottom. The participants themselves estimated that they ranked the bottom 12%. They thought they were in the top 62 percentile. Now, moreover, competent students tended to underestimate their own competence because they erroneously presumed that the tasks easy for them to perform also were easy for other people to perform. Incompetent students improve their ability to correctly estimate their class rank after receiving minimal tutoring in the skills they previously lacked, regardless of any objective improvement gained in said skills of perception. Now, this is so interesting for us, our audience, and the guests that we have on this show, the people that you see speaking out at conferences, authors, researchers, and it's very once you start to digest this, Dunning-Kruger, once you digest this and you start to listen to other people and you start to observe and maybe take a hard look at yourself, you start to recognize a little bit more about what's going on. I do find it very, very interesting when I hear somebody, especially privately, not in public, but privately, talk about their own abilities and other people's inabilities to know the facts, to know what they're doing, how wrong they are, and how right they are. I lose interest very, very quickly because I'm not so sure about the competence of actually what's going on there. It's the ones out there that move me the most that say, quite simply, I learn from everybody. I don't know it all. Life is a journey. Let's figure this thing out together. And I love doing this research. I've got stuff here. If it's good and people can use it, great. If we talk about it, fine, great. But you know what? I want to listen to what everybody else has to say. You know, when I walk into a conference and I walk into a seminar that's going on and I see other researchers and authors there to see somebody else speak, and they sit in the back of the room and they're intently listening, that impresses me. That impresses me a lot. It's the ones that don't go to the other presentations that are talking smack, or other authors out there that are talking smack, or critics that are doing that. And we see it time and time again. It doesn't matter if it's sports or if it's entertainment, if it's news, if it's politics. It's all dealt with in the same way. We all have the same brains. So always remember now, make that observation. Where is this person actually coming from? You know, and do they think that they are superior and everybody else is incompetent? Think about that. It really, really is an interesting observation on life. And I go back and I look at myself. I have never, ever, even as a guitar player, I pretty much sucked. Okay? I was an okay guitar player. I love to learn. I love to practice. I couldn't write songs. I eventually was able to write songs that were, you know what, okay. Would never sell an album, would never sell a record, ever. But I worked really hard at it. But I knew that there were so many great songwriters out there. But it's the same thing with radio, and it's the same thing when I was in sales or when I was in the audio business or producing records. I always had the same attitude. You know, I was intimidated by everybody, and I thought that I was just okay, and I thought that everybody else could do what I am doing, and that maybe I was faking my way through it a little bit when I would mix a record, you know, and I would have people come in and go, man, this just sounds so good. How do you do it? And I'm thinking to myself, man, anybody can do what I am doing, right? And now I look back, that has always been my attitude in life. I couldn't paint. I could draw pretty good. I was a really good industrial artist and work with line and ink, and I was pretty good at that. But I couldn't paint, could not sculpt. Fine arts were you have no idea how bad of a painter I was. Nauseating. You know, and I always looked at life like that I was just adequate and okay. And I feel good about myself with having that attitude. And if I can attract my friends, you, this audience, that we are all on the same page with just that. We are here to learn. We're not superior to anything, and we don't think that. We are here to learn and figure this thing called life out and move forward. That's what this show is about. That's what I am here to do. And I love all of you for just that. So think about the Dunning-Kruger the next time you sit and listen to Mr. or Mrs. Smarty Pants. Tonight, we are going to do just that. We are going to further our edumacation right here. By the way, that's Popeye. Remember that? Popeye. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Clifford Mahooty, the Zuni Prophecies, and much, much more. It's Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back with our guest, Clifford Mahooty. Stay right there.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. Let's wind the clocks back 60 years. Food was different. Food provided health and nutrition, and using supplements was minimal. Unfortunately, now we have chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides that can be quite lethal in the name of our food supply and, of course, the ever-loving dollar. Supplementing our diets can be very important to stay healthy. Cleansing from daily intruders to the body might be critical. Live strong and take charge. Log on to getthetea.com. Our herbal tea is a great way to cleanse from intruders. Our supplements is a great way to maintain and improve your health. When your health is not up to par, go to getthetea.com. No GMOs, no fillers, and organic, and very helpful in keeping you at the top of your game. Life is too short to feel, you know what I mean. Stay in the game, at the top of your game with getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Again, getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at kgraradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. kgraradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Yeah, man. It's good to be one of those nights. Very excited. Because our guest tonight's Clifford Mahooty. Tomorrow night, Ray Davis is going to be here. We're going to do a full evening of the Anunnaki. And I want to remind you that Thursday night is another Fader night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom live. Followed by open lines all night long. But tonight, it's Clifford Mahooty. First time guest, too. Crazy. Don't know why it's taken so long. Clifford is a member of the Zuni Pueblo Indian tribe of New Mexico. Mahooty is a retired civil environmental engineer. He's got a BS from New Mexico State back in 1969. And he's worked in many projects with Shell Oil Company, the United States federal government, in environmental justice for Indian tribes, tribal housing projects in the USPHS as a commissioned officer in water, wastewater, and EPA enforcement and environmental compliance. Mahooty is active in the Zuni Orders of the Kachina, Galaxy Medicine Society, the Sun Clan leadership, and is a wisdom keeper of the Zuni history. Now, tonight, stay focused, because we are going to address ancient Zuni, Hopi, and other tribal prophecy concerning prophecy and eventual disclosure. There is much misinformation and misinterpretation of Native American prophecy, and our conversation tonight will set the record straight. So with that, I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Mr. Clifford Mahooty. Welcome to the show. And the first-time guest always gets the first-time guest disclaimer, which is, this is just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. Where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, Clifford. Now, I want to start here before we jump into the history of it all. The history, the research, the archaeology, the cultures of North America are not as researched or a part of pop culture like, say, Egypt is, or Greece, or Rome, or even the Mayans and the Aztecs in Central and South America. But when it comes to North America, it seems like it gets ignored. And I'm pretty angry about that. Why do you think that is?
Well, I believe because that when the what we call America, which is a white man, first came here back in 1540, which was through Coronado's expedition from Mexico, and ever since that time, they had been the exploitation rather than exploration. And I believe that the original inhabitants, which were the American Indian, were not looked upon as somebody that had the technological advancements, had anything to offer to the rest of the world, so they sort of treated them as savages. I think a lot of books are written where it says that they were savage, they had no connection to anything, they were just out here, but they were primarily after the minerals and other valuable assets of the land, so they didn't pay too much attention to what was here already, as perhaps like in Mesoamerica, where they had the big temples that were the Aztecs, the Incas, and the Mayans, and they had vast empires. But out here, they were sparsely located throughout the great land, and also they had no great temples to speak of. But at that time, that in those days that they looked upon them as savages that were just perhaps like the rest of the other animals that were here. So they treated them as such.
When you look at some of the temples here in North America, certainly like with the Anasazi comes to mind first, but the petroglyphs and the mounds and the things that are across this great country, it should be a part of the educational system around the world, and it is not. And I just don't get the ignorance and why they want to. They feel the need even today to push it to the side and talk about other things first.
Well, I think that they looked upon it as this was, as in all history books, Christopher Columbus discovered America or discovered this land. Actually, this is, by all indigenous groups, it's referred to as the Old World. And there's also history. If you look into the history and of other places, for example, like the Grand Canyon, and even our own history, they talk about some of the people that were here before they went across over to other islands, which is Europe and other nations across the oceans. There's history of Egyptians here in the Grand Canyon, the Buddhists, and also way back when the Chinese were already over here too, prior to about way back in 2000, about 2,000 years before. If we look at, for example, way back in about 2,250 BC, the Chinese Buddhist priest by the name of Yu was here, and he recorded a lot of things that is very true to what later on his another Chinese came by the name of Wei Shan, which came back and retraced his route approximately 500 A.D. And he verified the fact that what he saw, the original Yu saw, was that it's in the same place, the same distances. And also, the Zunis also have a history of the Chinese being right next to their village way back probably about 15 to 1600. and they were here when the Spanish first came around. So this is if people only looked at the American Indian history and researched it, there's records out there, and there's also places what they call ruins and monuments that talk about these things, and also petroglyphs. Also, right next to the original petroglyphs, pictographs, and so on, are the Chinese that put their engravings right next to the original American Indians. So there's a lot of proof out there, the scientific proof, which I look at as a very good evidence to prove that they were here at this time.
When you are talking with a group of people about this subject, what is your go-to sacred site that you want to discuss first?
Well, first of all, it's the Grand Canyon.
Right.
And then usually the second one is the Chaco culture, which is in northern New Mexico, and also the Mesa Verde in Colorado.
Right.
And the Zuni also was at the same period. You don't hear very much about it. It's called the Yellow House Ruins, which is the same age as the Chaco culture. And there's other smaller places like Canyon de Chelly in northern Arizona, which is now on the Navajo reservation. But there's many, many other places which are not as big, like, for example, in Arizona, places like Sedona, clear down south to Phoenix, and even clear to the Pacific coast, which they haven't been excavated yet.
Now you're from the Sun Tribe, right?
No, I'm from the Zuni tribe. I'm the Sun Clan.
Oh, the Sun Clan. I apologize for that. But you're from the Sun Clan of the Zuni tribe,
right?
And when it comes to the Zuni and their history in North America, how far back are we going back again to 2000 BC?
Well, if you look at the Ice Age ended approximately 12,500 BC. So the Indians have always been said, or at least the Hopi and Zuni that I'm very aware of, they've always said that we had been here before, but there's a lot of integration of different groups that had journeys throughout the Southwest, clear up to the I guess at the edge of the Ice Age at that time. Northern, probably north of Utah, present Utah. And so we're talking about 12,000 BC. And I've researched quite a bit about this. And where my research started was in the prayers and the chants and the ceremonies, and also the prayer system that we talk about in Zuni. And I got to be very curious about this at a young age, and I had a lot of elders. So the repetition has always been that we came from the West. And as I researched from some more, it come to find out that at one time there was a place called Lemuria or Mu. So I've read a lot of books on that, and what really is kind of interesting is that when we talk about that in our prayer systems and our ritual chants, it always refers to coming from the West and the journeys that were evolved throughout the ages, and we eventually come here. We were not the only tribe here. They were, according to our history, there was so much population when the exodus from Lemuria, they came here to what is term the Turtle Island people, or at least land.
Right.
There were so many people that they had to eventually break up into groups. So a lot of them went south. For example, like if you look at a Mayan Indian, or if you go down to the Inca tribes and other tribes that are down in Mexico, you can. I've made a mistake many times of looking at those people, and I thought they were from our Pueblo people over here. And so they all look. We basically look alike, but this is thousands of years ago.
What about what about the DNA testing that has gone on? Is there a connection?
Well, I don't know. Really, have any idea if there's any. I have looked for it, but I can't really find any evidence of it. But I'm sure that if somebody did a real good research on it, I'm sure there is some out there. But I just haven't had a chance to really look at it from the biological standpoint. I'm pretty well basing it on the prayers, the chants, and the songs. Because in one of our song groups, there's actually 19 locations that made a sort of a circular turn, going south and coming back in there, and then finally come to Zuni. Now, that's only one group. Now, there was hundreds of groups. And it's still evident today with the petroglyphs. Petroglyphs also tell the story about where they had been or their routes. It's not only on one panel. In other words, some of it will be in one canyon, and then further down on a different part of the country, there will be a continuous of that. Doing a lot of research on this type of petroglyphs, and I've had a lot of help from others. So it's a very, very broad base, and it's unfortunate that some of our Indian people haven't gone into this type of work, like archaeology, anthropology, and all that. And there are not very many schools that specialize in that.
I want to talk about that right now, actually. You start off, I've heard you do this so many times now, you start off your presentation each time with a prayer. Can you, I'd like to hear the prayer right now. Can you do it for us?
Well, all it is that it's a basic prayer, and it usually says, what I usually say is that I open up all the so-called channels of communication with not only the above world people, the people that are on the planet, but also with the underworld people, or the interior of the earth people. And so usually I start out by talking in Zuni. For example, I start out using my language, and I say, "Malesi down and look up on the ona ya to tachu yante leshine kuyela na kaikana ona ele dopa isoni ona ele de na kidana le ma ho he onya bi and you has a national e ma sho ani mali mana sho ani le la so le sitek bina sa kate ana ke hours panina ona yan satuna atni you has a national production tom ko ta pe na ko Mahooty The Zuni idem kandi you it on SU chama onata donaka on the tontiko hanayani child. It's a very short prayer saying that we were opening up the channels throughout the upper people, the star people in this case, all the different demigods that rule the planet, and also the interior beings, which includes the one that went before us. And because Indian people do not die, the body dies, but the soul still goes on. So I'm asking them for guidance so that we can make each other understand what our purpose is, and to continue to love each other, to our planet, our Mother Earth, with each other, and to understand each other, and to ask our Sun Father for the light to carry us through the end of our lives. So it's very sophisticated. It can be very sophisticated, but we usually, when I work with a lot of groups, it doesn't make any difference what group. That's always the prayer in all Indian tribes, that to open a prayer, so that actually we're asking for their guidance, and also to give us the voice through us, so that we can convey the messages to whatever we're getting together for. And so this is it's a very big formality among the Pueblo people and most other Indian tribes. So this is why we have to have a prayer, and it's just part of the living day. So some of us, or most of us, we open with a prayer every morning before we do our chores or before we go to work or whatever it is. So we also bless the land and ask for guidance.
Help me.
This is a true.
Yeah, go ahead and finish. I'm sorry.
Well, this is what we have been taught since we were little guys, and so we continue to do this. All formal activities within the tribes go through this. So that's opening up the channel, so to speak.
I've heard. I want you to help me understand something, because I've heard you say this, that the Zuni language, the Zuni have their own language, right? And that is unique. Help me understand what you're saying there.
Well, yes, the Zuni have their own language, and it is only unique within the tribe. The other tribes, they can understand each other, even though they're separated by different villages.
Right.
And people have tried, linguists, Latin chronologists, archaeologists, anthropologists, and so on, have tried to trace it back. Where did this language come from?
Right.
It's not related to any other language in the world.
Not the Polynesian or Chinese or Spanish. Pick another language, right? It's its own unique language.
Well, it is. There's a lady by the name of what was her name? She wrote a book called The Zuni Enigma.
Yes, The Zuni Enigma. Yes.
Enigma. The author is Nancy Yaw Davis.
Yep.
She tried very hard to connect the Zuni language with some Chinese group, and I met her back in 1991 when she first came out with her book. It's called The Zuni Enigma, and there was a lot of different things that I did not agree with it. Actually, I tried to help her. But maybe my delivery of trying to get her to talk to me was wrong, because she didn't want to talk to me, because I could have helped her with some of the words which were really off. And I later found out who her informant in Zuni was, and that person is now gone to the happy hunting grounds. But she tried very hard. And she said she went to the point to where she tried to. I told her this way. I said, "You try to put square pegs into round holes, but I can help you with the adjustment of the words so that it will mean something." So, see, the Chinese were here in, like I said, back in about 1500, and we have history of them. They left right after the Spanish came, and they declared war against the Zuni, and they helped the Zunis fight the Spanish.
And
after that,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Clifford. I keep interrupting you. I don't mean to.
Go ahead. What was your question?
The question is, what all the other tribes and the names that we're familiar with, like the Apache or the Navajo or Comanche across the country, Can they understand Zuni, and do the Zuni understand the other Indian tribes, at least a little bit, or is it just completely separate?
Well, the Navajo and Apaches are actually like from the same group.
Right.
They call themselves the Athabascan, and they're the ones that went through Beringia. Remember the land bridge up in the Bering Sea?
That's right.
And so they came right after, maybe during the last of the inhabitants of Chaco, and they came all the way from Alaska. If you look at Alaska, the people over there and throughout Canada, they're also called Athabascan. So when they came over here, they were newcomers to this part of the world. And I think that they're based upon their way their culture is. They might be the branch of the Mongolian people, because their culture is similar to them. You know, like the Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan connection.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But those are the people that gave the name Anasazi to the Pueblo people, and all the Pueblo people don't like that term given them, because each one of us have our own name, which had been since when we first came here, or made here in many cases.
Let's take a break right here, Clifford. This will be our first break. We'll pick up right here when we come back. Our guest tonight, Clifford Mahooty. Now, tonight we're doing an oral history, and we're going to discuss the Zuni Prophecies. And for once and for all, man, we are going to attempt to set the record straight tonight. This is Fade to Black. Our guest, Clifford Mahooty. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing. The real oil. CBD is truly ancient life oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Go Beckley Tappy. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product. What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hard shell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boom boxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Clifford Mahooty. And we are going to discuss North American history, Native American history, of course, sacred sites, and the Zuni Prophecies. And Clifford, I wanted to start here. When we are talking about extraterrestrials and ET, I think pop culture is one thing, and then we have the rest of history around us that it seems to me that the connection to ET in the past is largely ignored or even laughed about today, but not with the tribes of North America. I think that they recognize the contact with what is going on in the stars.
Yes, I think a lot of there's also a sort of like you say, a pop culture interpretation of what we call the sky people or star people. And I think that I have tried to explain to them what the term Kachina means. Kachina is, when you say a Kachina, the first thing that comes to their mind is a little doll that is a curio piece, usually made by the Hopi or the Zuni or lately of the things that are made in Taiwan.
Right.
And so this was actually used as a tool to talk about spirituality and the connection with other beings throughout the universe when you're a little kid or a little boy or a little girl. And so, but the term Kachina, the common term they use is Coco. I think one of the New Ager thing is Coco Pelli. There is a lot of reference to that type of a Kachina, but I think that they've misinterpreted many things. But these are the Kachina are reference to the star people.
And well, what about your belief with the blue star Kachina?
Well, I think I covered this at the Mount Shasta meeting. It's a hoax. The hoax that somebody created was that, as the story goes, it says that the Blue Star Kachina will dance in the Hopi Plaza, and during the dance time, he will take off his Kachina mask, and he will be a ET. Somebody made that story up maybe 20, 30 years ago, and everybody picked it up. And then not only is there a blue star Kachina, but they also included a red star Kachina. So if you looked at that presentation I did at Mount Shasta, remember that video I had of this Hopi elder named Malava. He just told everybody, he said, that is a hoax. That's a Hopi guy.
Well, let's talk about the First Mesa Hopi elder story.
because, as you know, I was mesmerized by your presentation, and I made a mental note to myself to make sure that we talked about that tonight. It was a great part of your presentation. So tell us the story of the Hopi elder.
Well, the Hopi elder, his name is Malava. He's from First Mesa. He is the last of the elders of what they call the 9 elders. He was taught by the 9 elders, and he is actually the head priest status of the First Mesa people. And that mesa is made up of different groups, like they call it the Hano, which is the original inhabitants of that area, the Hopi themselves, and also the Tewa. The Hano people were supposedly there during the time of the First Mesa people when they first got there. And then the Tewa people came in prior to the Spanish, way back about 1580 or somewhere in that part. So there's a group there, but it's the First Mesa going into the Hopi Reservation coming from the east. And so he talks about all the different things that have happened, and each mesa has their own history. It's just like anywhere else, even though they're the same group. They're from all different groups. According to my understanding, it's very difficult to exactly get the same information from the same people in the individual villages. But he's the one that wanted to make sure that this word is out, that there's no such thing as the Blue Star Kachina or the Red Star Kachina. That's a hoax that was written by many book writers.
What is it about every sacred site that I have been to? Now, I haven't been to that many, maybe a dozen, half a dozen to a dozen, but I can assure you, and you're going to laugh when I say this, but I can assure you that every site that I have gone to, I have seen strange things. I have felt strange things. I have closed my eyes and seen things that I can't explain. Now, for me, I'm shocked and I'm in wonder. I'm in awe. But for the American Indians, for the Native American Indians, you guys have been talking about this, and it's been a part of your culture going back thousands of years. What is going on these sites around the country, whether it's light orbs or beings or interdimensional things or even out-of-body experiences, and even Bigfoot for that matter, too, as well? What's going on at these sacred sites?
Well, according to our teachings and according to our rituals and prayers, when this was a water planet. When I don't know how many millions or maybe even billions of years ago, the emissaries or the sky people of the Creator in our teachings improvised the Earth energy systems and activated the multidimensional communication network for humans and spiritual contact. For example, at present day, Zuni still practice the concepts and also has spiritual and sacred places that emanates these type of things you're talking about. There are many spirit beings with humans at sacred sites, and we also call them the original. The way that the Zunis explain it is that those are the humans, or in the Indians, we call them our places of payments with the spirit beings. And they're active, they've always been active, and they're usually what you call sacred sites. They're usually around springs in the original environment.
Right.
In mountains, for example, like up there at, what's that mountain near Trout Lake? That
Mount Adams. Yep.
Mount Adams is one of them. We were there last week at the Mount Shasta.
Yep.
And you go to right here in Arizona, it's the San Francisco Peaks outside of Flagstaff, Arizona.
Right.
You go to the Sandia Mountains where they got the biggest nuclear activity. The Nanotechnology Center is the sacred mountain for all the Pueblo people. And there has been orbs coming out of there even before Albuquerque was settled. And there's many shrines over there. And you go to any, for example, over at Sedona. Sedona has a lot of vortices.
Right.
They have a lot of sort of like when people go in there, they have this missing time or beings that actually come greet them. Not the camel dudes, but the real beings. And then throughout the ages, the Pueblo people abandoned the original places and moved to their present villages. But the reason that they moved is many. It's not because that the spirit people told them to move. It's because that they had invasions from what they call the dark force people. Even way back when, thousands and thousands of years ago, they also had what we term today in the dark force people on the planet. So if you go to a sacred site, you can see, and actually you can see orbs circling around you, or when you get in there, say like you walk into a cave or a sacred site, you feel like you have lost a lot of time. And when you come out of there, you feel like you don't feel physically what you should feel, but and it's the energy forces that are, according to our people, you are in the presence of spiritual beings, and some of them might call me. And there's many kinds, including ETs, Bigfoot, even the little, what we call the little people. All Indian tribes have a reference to their little people. So, like back in, like in England, they had the little goblins and the fairies, fairy circles, and all that. So it's all over the planet, and of course they're connected to each other with the ley lines, the electromagnetic setup. Actually, the Earth is a very sophisticated electric scientific machine, even though we call it Mother Earth. So there's a lot of connections. Also, the Pueblo people believe in the inner world people or the inner world beings, especially the sophisticated orders, such as the medicine orders, the priesthood. The priesthood were the original people that could connect directly with the ETs. For example, the parallel would be the pharaohs of Egypt. And they had a different DNA. They had a different physical makeup. If you look at remember the extended skulls?
Yes.
They've uncovered not only in Egypt, but in South America. And when the beings that came from the other universe parts, they came over here, they actually made those, according to our history and according to our spiritual teachings, the original leaders of those groups were actually half ET and half humans. I mean, when I say this to a lot of people, especially with all the alphabet behind their names,
right?
They kind of laugh. And but this is what we believe in, and it's becoming more true than ever every year, so to speak, because they don't have an answer, even though they can theorize many different concepts, but nobody really knows. I had a real good knockdown drag out with a so-called pyramid expert for 5 days on a trip with him. I asked him, I said, who made the pyramids? And he could not tell me who made them. So this is if you if you had some background on that, write books about it, at least you'll have a theory about it. But this individual did not have a theory.
Now, whether it's Joshua Tree or we're talking about, Eastern Tennessee and the Brown Mountain Lights or the Yakima Reservation up in Mount Adams or Mount Shasta, Sedona, Chaco Canyon, these spots, the Four Corners, the Grand Canyon, you go out there and you see these orbs either forming on the ground and flying up to the stars or shooting across the ground or appearing in front of you. What is it that we are is that ET? Are those spirits? What is it, some kind of energy? What do you think we are witnessing when we see that? I think it's ET. I just jump on that bandwagon, but what is it that we're seeing when we observe these giant orbs flying around?
Well, what we call in the the Zuni people, and I think I put this on my presentation last week. All those things that you see, whether it looks like a flying saucer, or it looks like an orb, or it looks like a Bigfoot, or even or something that looks like an ancient dinosaur-looking character or thing. These are called what we call raw people. The Zuni term for it is Kapinaho'i, which means literally meaning raw. As versus like we are, like the Zuni Indians are not raw people, but I guess we're kind of a cooked people because we're in a different dimension.
Right. We're actually physical. Right.
Yeah, physical, and those people are in many, many dimensions. They can actually go through walls, as a lot of people have witnessed or experienced. They can go through walls, and then of lately, I have a friend in Sedona that he's written many books on UFOs and different anomalies around Sedona. He recently, about 6 months ago, he called me up and he told me that ET is really getting very fancy. He said that they come in, and when he was looking at a flying saucer type vehicle, and then immediately turned into a fixed wing propeller craft.
Oh, really?
And I know that guy would not lie to me.
Right.
But there's a lot of
they're doing that to fool us. Is that why?
The what?
Are they doing that to fool us?
I think the reason that they're doing that is because now that we've got the technology, especially with these digital cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And I have also experienced it. I usually go out once in a while and I got a digital camera and you just put it on flash, and it's a very dark night and you just start snapping pictures all around you. And when you look at it, and there'll be literally hundreds of orbs. We even took one about 3 years ago at a place called Cottonwood, Arizona, on top of a hill. And in one of those orbs was actually an ET-looking thing inside the orb or the bubble. And it was bigger than the ones that were surrounding it. And the other thing that or at least I've experienced, is that when you go to these sacred sites, especially those that are not on a map, run by the Park Service or the government,
mm-hmm.
state government, you can actually see those things, and they're huge. And now that there's always been around, and that's what you see even during the daytime. You can see an orb during the daytime. And here's one thing that's kind of funny. It's like UFOs. When I used to go maybe 30, 40 years ago, back in the 60s, I would take people out on my reservation and go out there and let's go look at the UFOs. Oh, there'd be about 6 or 7 guys go out there with me, and maybe myself and one other person would actually see a UFO. The others would not even see it, even if it came to their face, they couldn't even see it. And I always wonder why, but I think the reason is that I think that there's some type of a connection, either because of their beliefs or some type of their structure that they have within their body, their DNA or whatever. But it's becoming very prevalent now. And I've always said, back in 1970, I said there will be more UFOs going to be coming around. And that's when I still was on the reservation, and it's happening.
I've told the story a lot. I don't think I've told you about it, but so I'm going to repeat it now. Up at Mount Adams last month, I saw, we all saw, there's 150 of us that saw this, this gray orb from across the field there. So it was about a quarter mile away. And it was a gray orb. It was flat, Clifford. It was flat. It wasn't a sphere. It was flat. And it was like 50 feet across. And it lasted for about 5 seconds. But this was without a camera. This was with my eyeballs. And then it faded away. And everybody started talking about it. And when they started talking about it, that's when I realized that I wasn't imagining this, and it was very, very impressive. But it also kind of freaked me out in that it proved to me that orbs are real. This is not tinfoil hat stuff. This is not digital camera fakiness or whatever, dust particles or insects. This was with my naked eye, and it was giant. What is going on with that? Again, is it something spiritual? Is it E.T.? Is it a being? Why would something appear in front of a group like that and then fade away?
Well, it's always been they're spiritual beings. E.T.s are also spiritual. Now, one of the things that when we were talking about the connection between the spiritual beings and the kachinas and all that, if you look at the YouTube on, I think it was taken in January of this year, and I saw that on YouTube. It's a person by the name of Robert Bingham, Bingham.
Right.
And the title of his video is Android, and it's like a kachina about the size of a helicopter, or so he said. I believe that's off the coast or somewhere in that, either in California or somewhere. And he's taking a picture of this. It's about maybe 5 or 6 minutes long, and it's exactly the same makeup of the kachina that comes to Hopi that time of the year. And on those, he's got one orb, I think, on a knee, and the other one is like maybe on part of his body. And then his head actually turns around 360 degrees. And it's the same kachina that comes to Hopi during the right after the winter solstice, right before the equinox. And so there are things like that up there, and a lot of that information has been kept secret by many, many organizations. But people like us that live out there on isolated reservations, we see them all the time. And when we're doing our ceremonies or our rituals at certain times of the year, they actually come to the villages, and it's a common thing that we know about, but we don't talk about it because it's so common.
Do you call them, or do they just come and hang out?
No, we actually pray for them, and they're the one that sets the schedules, the time immemorial. It's our clock is the moon.
Do you?
And all.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Clock is
The spiritual clock is the moon.
Yes. And if you look at it, everything is based upon the phases of the moon, and that's a calendar. All our rituals are based upon that, and that's also our prayer system is based upon that. And then after the summer, for example, before the summer equinox, they start doing things on the 6 days after the new moon to speed up the planting and the season. And after the summer solstice, then they actually go at the full moon stage to extend the summer for planting purpose. For harvesting purposes. And also, it's all our religion and all our prayer system is based upon the moon, and it starts out like that on all religious activities. You have to really understand the system to know what we're talking about.
Now, we're going to take a break right here, Clifford, and when we come back, I do want to start to talk about the Zuni Prophecies, and not only the prophecies themselves, but how they may include eventual disclosure. Are you ready for that? We'll do that right after the break.
Okay.
Our guest tonight, the one and only Clifford Mahooty. I don't know why it's taken so long to have Clifford on the show. He's a great friend, and I will say this. When he speaks out at conferences or when he walks into a room, nothing lights up like when Clifford Mahooty is there. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Clifford right after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go Beckley Tappy.
Hi, I'm Matt Ray for U.S. Gold Bureau. I cover the market daily. No matter how strong it gets or what long-term predictions say, you can count on one thing as certain. There will be another crash. It will affect your assets. And when it happens, wouldn't you rather be 2 weeks or even 2 months ahead of the curve? Well, Wall Street insiders have been quietly converting their assets into gold for the last few years. Now it's your turn. Buying gold and silver is easier than buying stocks with the U.S. Gold Bureau's Investor Guide. It's free, and you learn how to buy precious metals in or out of an IRA or 401k retirement plan. Your investment shipped directly to your home and is 100% insured and guaranteed. You control your investments and shelter them against the stock market, politics, and unknown threats. Act while your dollar is still worth something. Call U.S. Gold Bureau, 800-885-GOLD. U.S. Gold Bureau, 800-885-GOLD, 800-885-GOLD. Call today.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Very special guest tonight is with us, Clifford Mahooty. I'll say it again. I don't know why it's taken so long. Man, I will always respect those that are not only smarter than me, but that are funnier than me. And Clifford is both. Clifford, again, welcome to the show, man. And I don't know why it's taken so long. You and I, when we hang out at conferences, we always have these great conversations, and we're hanging out with these wonderful, beautiful people. And we always, okay, well, let's do it soon. And I don't know why it's taken so many years, but let's don't make it this long next time around, okay? Make me that promise.
Okay, well, I guess we were on Indian time.
Yes, Indian time. Right. Now, let's talk about the prophecies, because our community talks about the prophecies from the Zuni, but I think a lot of it is misinterpreted, number one. Number two, a lot of people that talk about it don't have a clue what they're talking about, but they're trying to be the smart person in the room, and they clearly are not. And they probably haven't sat through one of your presentations or read about it, and they just, you know what I mean? They're just misinformed. And I know you're going to agree with that. So let me start here. What are the Zuni prophecies, and how are they handed down?
The Zuni prophecies are, I guess, in a way, truths that were forewarned by, again, our people that created our system, which in this case would be what I call the raw people, or the gods, and also the demigods of the Creator. And many prophecies were expressed by Zuni and Hopi that are still in existence to this day. But when I was a young boy, and even when my parents were very young, they would talk to them about these prophecies, and it was not a scare tactic. It's not a fear or anything. It was just a way that we were taught in to look at the future, and also to keep in mind at all times of how to carry out your life. So most of the prophecies have been handed down for centuries, if not thousands of years. And so basically what it is, it's a guiding force or guidelines to take care of two things. First of all, is Mother Earth, and of course all the living things. When I mean living things, I mean not only we talk about tree people, we talk about water people, we talk about stone people and all that. And it's a respectful way of keeping everything in balance, so that if we don't do certain things, this will happen type thing. It's a mathematical function type thing. And so most of the prophecies started really coming into play right after World War II because of the highest activities of what we call our guardians and our keepers. And in the white man world, they call them UFOs or USOs and orbs. Became intensified during and after World War II. Remember, a lot of the things that were connected with technology were probably not at that time of advanced stage. For example, the Foo Fighter theory and all that. And but there were many disturbances that were created because of the first atomic explosion in New Mexico, Trinity Site, back in 1945, I believe it was. And the grandfathers would say at that time, and I was still only a year old, I believe, and they would say that, okay, now is the beginning of what they had been, what the spirit people had told us. And so they talked about the rock roof, and we have always been taught that we live within a sphere, and they come and check us on the people, the indigenous tribes, to see how they're carrying on the instructions given them by the sky people or star people or what we call the raw people, which are the gods, demigods. And so it started happening, and then it started getting intensified because at that time we didn't have any white man influence. They came and they started churches, but most Indian tribes fought them, but actually they were taken over. So the prophecies became intensified in the teachings, at least in my generation. So we had kivas in those days, and then before we start any songs or activities, they would talk about the prophecies that were handed down, and I think they were the first homeschoolers, because we got our education in every facet of the Pueblo life. You get it at home, and you get it in the kivas, and the advanced were done by the medicine man, the wisdom keepers, and so on. But it was, in my generation, they had, prior to my generation, they had talked about dark water causing craziness. They thought it was, when the Spanish first brought coffee and chocolate, they thought it was, and so they kind of forgot about it.
Right.
But later on, the liquor was dark, and that's what caused craziness and splitting of families. So there's a whole bunch of prophecies. They talked about putting a hole in the sky, and this is when they had the space program back in about the late 50s and early 60s. And they talked about also about why would they go to the moon when all our people, or at least our gods or demigods, have their places up there, and it's also sacred land or sacred places, just like our sacred springs and our sacred things on the planet here. So it was very. If I had never gone to school and understood other areas of that, I would have probably just said, well, this is what they taught me, and you take it as such. But having learned all about the science programs and so on, it all fits together. And the hole in the roof became, remember back in the 50s, they had the ozone layer that was destroyed they blamed the air conditioning in the cars for doing that, but it was a different one.
Interesting. Right. That's a pretty fascinating twist on things, isn't it? I mean, it's obvious. Oh, yeah, it's obvious when you look at it in modern eyes, but we're talking about ancient prophecy here, foretelling the future. Yeah. That was spot on the money.
Mm-hmm. And it says that the way they used to speak was very, very simple and straightforward, because this is part of our spiritual teachings, we don't call it religious because to us religion is an invention by man to control people and fear. This was spirituality is the truth taught among the indigenous groups as something that was put up or set up and to be, and it was going to be, we're going to meet that time, and they also taught us how not to fall into that trap of saying that, well, this is fake or somebody makes it up. But anyway, the hole in the roof, according to the elders, would say it will bring disturbances to human consciousness and physical bodies. And if you look at some of the diseases that are in existence today, if you look at it from the scientific standpoint, there's a shield up there. At that time, the favorite subject was the Van Allen belts and the asteroid belts and all that different types of layers up there that prevented like ultraviolet rays and all these other different things that today causes cancer. And so they knew about that, but they didn't have a scientific terms for it. They just knew what the symptoms would be.
Now, if I was to go into a Zuni classroom, right, on one of the tribal lands, and I walked in, I was hanging out with Zuni children, and I brought up the subject of E.T. or Are We Alone in the Universe, they would look at me like I was nuts, right? They would go, what are you talking about? Of course.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, okay, here's one thing that I'd say about 10, maybe 15 years ago, I walked into a classroom which was about third or fourth grades.
Right.
And I wanted to see if that truth was still being carried out. And one of the things that we taught when we were young people, very young people, when we would go, we did not even look at kachinas. When the kachinas came in to dance, our grandmothers, our mothers would put a shawl over our heads so we don't see them. And one of the instructions in those days was that do not look at the sky. And I always ask the question, well, why not? He said, because somebody's going to look down on you and they might come and get you. Okay, the abduction theory comes into play.
Right.
So I went back to the classroom, and first of all, it's kind of funny. They introduced me with my first name, and they kept saying the kids were saying, "Oh, here comes a big red dog." I didn't know what the heck they meant, but anyway, I found out that Clifford was a big red dog. Anyway, the first question I asked him, that's how old I am.
Right. Oh, that's funny. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I had to ask the kids, and they were real bright kids, and so I walked in there, and of course, all of them know how to speak Zuni. And so I asked them in Zuni, so I was talking along, and I told them who I were and what I did. And I asked the kids, just without even stopping, I asked them, all of them, I said, do you kids look up at the sky at night? And everybody said, no, we can't, we're not supposed to look at the sky at night. So the teachers are still in play. Because in the old days, when you look up at the sky, there were UFOs or things that up there that we're not supposed to know unless we go through the initiation process and learn about the esoteric systems that are in play in all levels of spirituality.
Interesting.
So they still teach that today.
Interesting.
Especially from the
That blows my mind, Clifford. And I wanted to ask you, how is the Zuni language still taught as part of the curriculum? Are the Zuni children still learning the Zuni language?
Well, we learned it from the day we were born.
Right.
But what they tried to do, I think it was under one of the presidents, maybe it was Reagan, when they had this big kick about bilingual education, and they were going to, and that's where Ebonics came about, and all this languages nobody understands. We got our own money for that. We got our own education system, by the way. And so they incorporated that, and they reinforced their religious social dances using this approach. So all the Indian kids are taught Zuni, the culture, the customs, and they also learn the other advanced spirituality by their grandfather. I mean, their fathers, their grandfathers, and all the elders, because all the kids are very versed in doing the prayers that I do at every meeting. And some of those kids are only in their teens, but they hold very high positions: priesthood, Kachino orders, Kiva orders, medicine man.
It's something that's missing in most cultures around the world, and I respect that so much. And with that, I wanted to ask you this, Clifford. When it comes to the prophecies, how this was an oral tradition that is handed down generation after generation after generation after generation. How far back do the prophecies go? Do you have any idea how old they actually are?
Oh well, this is when the Zunis were first made functional. If you look at the story of the end of the last world, which was the third world,
that's right,
destroyed. There, according to the white man, there has been 13 times that the Earth has reversed its polarity in the billions of years, and the Zuni people know that at least in at least my teachings up to this point, the world has flipped over on its axis, even in our own history, oral history. That's when that's why they had to find refuge in the Grand Canyon, and that's where the ant people and the insectoid people come into play.
Now, I want let's talk about that. I need to step in here because we only have about 10 minutes to the next break. The ant people and the way that they are depicted, and the inner earth and what is going on below ground, is something that was very deliberately depicted in those petrographs and the illustrations. It can't be wrong. They were seeing something. The ant people have a very distinct look to them, and it's not a mistake, is it?
No. All those petroglyphs are not cartoons, not graffiti. They're the history, and those are our records that will be passed on to generations. There are many, they're very vague if you're not familiar with the history, because a mark on the wall, in this case a petroglyph, you have to know your own language and your own history in order to interpret that. Even I have a hard time because it includes a lot of different things. For example, the crab nebulae, which is probably I think it's in 56 A.D., if I'm not mistaken. There's petroglyphs of that all around the Southwest. And also, some people say in one of my slides there, in that canyon where they made the clans for the Zuni people, there's actually a flying saucer with a grounding. And my friend says that, no, that's not a flying saucer. That's the eruption at Flagstaff, Arizona, those peaks. I disagree with him because our history has that in our rituals and our chants. And we also know about the Great Flood. We also know about the fire, the volcanoes, and the rumble. And this is very interesting. the next prophecy is that the rumbling will start, and the rumbling will never quit, and they won't know where it's coming from as a starter. Remember that house hum back in 1978? They had this big hum that goes on in Albuquerque around New Mexico, driving people nuts.
That's right.
At that time, I thought it might be that, but it was not rumbling, it was a hum. And so it stopped after about a couple of years. I was in Albuquerque at that time, and it was very disturbing. But there's other things that are coming down that is going to be everything has a sequence. You know, the moon landing was a disturbance to the spiritual being domain, and spacecraft were observed on all trips according to the data now that's out there. And Earth people like ours have, the reason they have a lot of problems now is because there's a lot of deviation from the spiritual esoteric practices. And this is one thing that we're trying to get back into doing that. And the reason for that happening is because of the substitution or invasion by other religious groups, especially the Catholic Church. And so it's out in the open, but it seems to be that other tribes have deviated from their spiritual teachings, primarily for the reason that they were removed from their lands, original lands. If you look at the Cherokee Nation, the land that they ended up has absolutely no connection to their spirituality. You know, moving them from the East Coast to Oklahoma, I mean, that's just like it's a no man's land sort of thing.
Now, when we are looking at the way the Ant people are depicted, again, very deliberate. They were illustrating exactly what was going on for the historical record, and then we look at some of these what appear to me to be helmeted, tennied, uniformed non-humans, whatever they may be, but also again depicted for the historical record for us today to see. When the critics out there say, well, you know what, they're just having fun, it's their imagination, they're on some really good drugs, they were doing, there's all these excuses for this. How do you argue back the idiocracy that is going on with that type of criticism?
Well, the first thing you ask them is, what were you guys smoking? Those guys that are critics, you know. Well, the other thing, too, is that, again, at least in my research and my teachings, or at least my readings, that there is not one individual that can outrightly say that this is what they meant. Even the Indians themselves, we can only speculate based upon what we have to this day. Talk about the Ant people. We still have the Ant society, for example, in Zuni. And in one of our next disclosures, the Hopi man is going to show the ant. There was two species of ant at Hopi. The species were light-skinned, and they were only about 3 or 4 feet tall. And they're in pictures taken by the Smithsonian and that Curtis guy that used to take pictures of Indians. But they could not spot it because they had no idea that it's right in their face, but they don't even know what it is. We know about that, and that's going to be our next project. And the other species that were around during the third world was they were bigger and they were taller, and they were like about 6 to 8 feet tall. And this is in the history as expressed by Malava, the guy that was from First Mesa.
Yes.
And to even further make it more interesting, there are also what they call flying shields that have been kept away from the people for many, many centuries now, because they knew about flying saucer, or what they call flying shields. And in Zuni, they used to say that they used to go by the wind. And I believe that when you talk about esoteric systems, when they mean by the wind, and then my question was that, well, how could they be out in space and still go by the wind? There's no wind in space. And then they would tell me, well, they went by, I guess the term would be the etherical engine type things. And then a Hopi man was going to tell me before he passed away about a year ago that the Merkaba, remember the quartz crystal that's two pyramids locked together?
That's right.
And that is, he told me that he came to me one day, and he said that I will tell you about how they used to use this for propulsion services, and then about a month later he passed away. But I had an idea that he was going to tell me about, that's where that blue star comes into play, with the advanced technology that the Hopis knew about. And also in other tribes that they know about it, but they won't talk about it anymore because they're under scrutiny on what they talk about, especially those people around Albuquerque.
Well, this blows my mind. We have to take a break right here, Clifford. But you know what blows my mind about what you just said? Maybe they were referencing solar wind, right? Now think about that.
It's probably that, because I was very young at that time.
Well, you're still very young, and you look great, but that doesn't change the fact that they might have been talking about solar wind and that technology. So. Yeah, fascinating. Our guest tonight, Clifford Mahooty. We're talking about the Zuni Prophecies, and we're talking about the history of Native Americans and North America. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Clifford after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal God, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio, or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Wow. Absolutely fascinating conversation tonight with Clifford Mahooty, our guest. And I expected this, but again, I just want to thank him in advance for what I was hoping for, which was an education tonight. I'm watching Twitter. My email is full. Everybody thankful for tonight, and I knew that you guys would all appreciate it. So, Clifford, I got to tell you, man, you're lighting up Twitter like I haven't seen lit up in a long time. You got to love. Can you feel the love? Can you feel the love, Clifford?
Yes, that is my message. I'm merely a messenger.
A messenger of love. I wanted to ask you that. I want to go back to a point that you made earlier before we move on with the prophecies. And in that all the other religions in the world were all based on controlling the population and fear. And it is amazing to me that most religions are based on, there is a God, and if you don't do what he says, you will be sent to a place where you will be thrown into fire and you will burn and be in pain for the rest of eternity. But he loves you. Right? It's just like, wait a minute. Wait a minute here. And for the Zuni and other tribes across, it is not based on that, is it? Fear is taken out of it, and there isn't one God, and it isn't based on faith. It is based on spirituality, the exact opposite.
Well, in my presentations, one of the things that I talk about is the ELF, or ELF, the electromagnetic light force. I've studied a lot of physics. Being an engineer, I look at the application and also with the teachings of the esoteric systems of the Zuni people and other tribes like the Hopi. I've come to that conclusion that on some of my presentations, I talk about in the beginning, spirituality and technology were one and the same, and they separated it for their own whatever purpose it was. And then in that cycle, the one going the technical route and the other one going the spiritual route, on the technical part, man invented religion for control and fear, so that they can make people obey, and they went into prison sometime way back then. So when the other religions first came to our indigenous tribes, they couldn't understand why they were being herded into churches and places, and they had no idea who they were talking about the fear factor. So it's always been, and they tried very hard, but because there were more and they had weapons, they just sort of succumbed to that, even though they did not believe in that.
What about telepathy, Clifford? Do you have that ability, and was that something that was practiced?
It's always been it was a practice among many indigenous folks, people at that time. When they talk about telepathy, they would also, going back to my prayer system, they would go into what they call nowadays meditation, or they would go. That's why they had these sanctuaries like Kivas. They would go up to the caves up in the mountains, and they would talk to each other throughout the whole world, I believe, and they would use that mental telepathy to connect with themselves. For example, the people up here knew about the coming of the Spanish even before they got here. The Zuni people were the first contact with the Spaniards, and they knew about them before they even came here. So there was no, maybe they had messengers in those days, but we had, again, these priesthood were designated by the spiritual world, or in this case, E.T., and they gave him the power to look at that, not only with other peoples, but also about the weather, about the coming droughts, the coming of other peoples. They knew about the other peoples that were going to come even before they came here. So that falls in that same category as what they call mental telepathy, or communication through the spirit system. And so once the other peoples came about, then they destroyed those transceiver stations called sacred places. If you notice that the American government has put those sacred places under the national park system, and that way people don't have any access to those places. And now even we Indian people cannot go in there unless we get special permission. And it's just like telling the Pope, you can't go into the Vatican because you got to have a permit to go into the Vatican.
I wanted to ask. Yeah. Same thing. And back to the Ant people, and certainly with the prophecies, when the story started to come out about Dulce, New Mexico, and an underground base there. Certainly there is the talk about what's going on in Antarctica right now and other underground bases around the world. Is that the Ant people, and were they accurate with that? Do you think that Dulce is connected with the Ant people news that was inscribed on the walls?
I don't really know because again the water has been muddied by so many people, especially when they wrote so many lies about those places. That's why I never allow myself to go to those type of meetings that have people that have been exposed to be hoaxers.
Right.
And that's what really hurts some of us that are really interested and have basic knowledge about those places, because they will believe science fiction better than facts. And so these people have muddied the waters so much because now they don't even know what is true and what is not true. In the case of Archuleta Mesa over there at Dulce, latecomers are the Hickory Apache.
Right.
And the original people were the Pueblo people. So if they know about these places, but because that they are so fearful of the government coming after them, they kind of shut up. And so now that they have a big convention over there now, and people have gone to that meeting, and the Hickory Apache tribe sponsors that. But I have never seen any good evidence to say if they really know what's going on there, because it's a military operation. And even other places, for example, like Sandia Mountain, in those areas, they're controlled by the military or whoever they are. So it'd be very hard to actually go in there and say, yes, there's a connection between the petroglyphs, our history, our rituals, our spirituality connected with these places. We know them by our own names. We don't know them by what the white man gave those places. So we don't know, because, for example, the San Francisco Peaks out of Flagstaff, Arizona, they're different names to different tribes, but they're not called San Francisco Peaks in any Indian language that I know of. So it's really hard to decipher.
So, that makes me feel pretty good that, and that's why I ask these types of questions, because we're all trying to wade our way through some very muddy waters. And part of it is disinformation. Part of it is ego. Some of it is just out and out lie and fabrication. Some of it is based on truth. Some of it is myth and mythology, and we can't figure it out. But you're exactly right. You just have to look at it and try to figure it out on your own. That's the only way to do it. Don't believe any one person, and don't believe the sensationalism.
Well, for example, the Smithsonian ethnologists were the first one that came to Zuni in the 1880s. I've read their books quite thoroughly, and a lot of information in there is a deviation from what was true to what they wrote about, and primarily for the reason that they bothered too many people. They didn't, according to our people in Zuni, our grandfathers and ancestors, they were very arrogant. I mean, they would break into places where even we as Indian people cannot go in there, because they're run by esoteric based people, and also only you have to go in there if you're initiated. But so what they did was that they gave false information to get them out of their hair while they're still doing the same. I mean, while they were trying to break into their culture. So a lot of that stuff that they wrote about, which are the official Smithsonian publications, a lot of them is not true. And I laugh about it when I read about them every so often, because what they said in those books is because they were here the first time. They didn't even know who they were.
Right.
So they just wrote what somebody told them.
Now, with the Hopi and other tribal prophecy, and of course the Zuni about ET and that eventual discovery about actually what's going on, is that timing out now with the possibility of disclosure today? What does the prophecy tell us about disclosure? Well, it's see, everything has a timeline. And it's based upon Mother Nature and the people. Because way back when, 500,000 years ago, we were the only the indigenous tribes were here. And so back in 1966, when I was working for the Zuni tribe, we had we took some recordings of the people that were close
close to 100 years old, including including my grandfather. And he was a historian of the tribe, or at least that's what the tribe says about him. But I knew him very well. And so we collected a whole, I don't know how many volumes. And basically, what they said was that that they talked about the future cities will progress and then decay to the ways of the lowest beings, which means that's what we're going through right now. You know, the lowest beings being those people that destroy things, drinkers of dark liquids, which comes into play as alcohol and other things, speaking nonsense and filth. Then the end shall be nearer. And one of the things that's logical is population will increase until the land can hold no more. The tribes of men will mix, which already happened. The dark liquids they drink will cause the people to fight among themselves. Families will break up, father against children and children against one another. And also he goes on to talk about have abundance of, and then the stars will fall upon the land, or drops of hot water will rain upon the earth, or the land will turn under, which means earthquakes. Or our Father, the sun, will not rise to start the day, which would probably happen in what we call nuclear winter, or when the earth stops turning. And they say that our possessions will turn into beasts and devour us whole, which at that time we used to laugh about it, because we said, well, maybe our sock drawer is going to devour us. But later on, when I looked at it, the first thing that came to the Indians' homes was TV sets, then microwave, and what do we have right now? Computers. And because these were not, they represent, when they say devour us whole, look at what has happened with technology. It has created so many different things that it just starts eating us up. And then here's another thing, too, that they talk about, is that if not, there will be an odor from gases, which will fill the air we breathe, and the end for us shall come. But the people themselves will bring upon themselves what they receive from what they have resulted. Time alone will tell what the future holds for us. In other words, that there are ways to get away from it if you go back to the original teachings. But this is what I could not really get out of them. See, I ran that project, and I say, well, what's the answer to this thing? And then they would say, well, we have to go back to the way that we were taught by the Creator and the demigods. But how many people are willing to do that? You know, they can't go back and do what a lot of people want to do. Go back to being of one,
right?
Service to others. And also to go back into the system of prayer, respect for each other, and the more it looks right now, it's going to take a very, very big catastrophe to make it go back to what we're supposed to have been doing all along. And this is why I said that is the whole thing. The whole world or the whole system has to crash and burn before we can come back up like the phoenix. Because that's what we go through in our religious rituals. We actually, after our religious rituals, we actually crash and burn the system so they can come back up, and everybody's feelings are back to normal. Everybody loves it. They pray together and they love each other. And this is what we go through, but how do you make that connection to the rest of the world? And that's where the dark forces come into play, because the dark forces are now overpowering the good of this land, And the only way that they can defeat the dark forces, and I think we're down that road right now, because they can no longer afford to do what they have been doing, because this disclosure will be that way to get rid of those people that have been doing bad things for I don't know how many centuries. So that's the only way that it can happen.
Have you ever met or communicated with the sky people or a star person?
Well, it's very difficult to really not in the three-dimensional world, because some of us, we have to go into a spiritual mode.
Right.
And the simplest way that they communicate with you is through dreams, or what I think are dreams. And they also show you a lot of people that are trained in that. They actually know about these things, and they go through it. But again, it's like anything else. It's just like when you start talking about UFOs way back in the 60s, they'll laugh at you. So if you say that, well, I talked to the spirit beings last night, and here's what they told me, and then they'll look at you and they'll say, "What? Are you crazy or what?" And so this is what a lot of people go through that experience. But again, for every one person, there's 9 of them that are fake also. So it's very difficult to get the message through. I've had experiences with a lot of people at many meetings and a lot of places where I know that they're making these things up, because you start asking the hard questions, and the more they make things up, it gets wilder every time. But yes, there is a communication network, but right now, other things that are in play right now, especially with technology, and right now they're probably listening to us, not the spiritual beings, but other places that have these communication networks tapped into, and they'll immediately turn off a lot of different ways that you can communicate with. So the individual has to do it on his own and get far away from the technological devices that are already set up, so that way they can interpret those ideas or at least the prophecies, or direct connect with the spirit people. And they're here.
Yes.
It's just that people are so scared of what this nation is and the whole world is going through.
Well, and the reason why I ask, Clifford, is how do we differentiate the dark from something that is purely spiritual, or ET, or star, or sky being? How do we know if we are not being deceived or being lied to? How can we tell the difference between light and dark?
Well, that's another thing, too, that we go through our prayers. Even though the ETs and spiritual beings are so very far out in technological spirituality, they are also, this is really puzzling to me, even the smartest among the humans are also told to present a lie, and they go along with it. It's the same way with spiritual beings, and we go through our prayers on that. And then what we say to the gods is that in our prayers is that whoever turns you to go against us, do not believe them, because even though there are guardians, there are spirit people, they also get deceived. And this is what really kind of puzzled me for a long time. The most intelligent beings in the universe are also told to go against you or us or whoever, and that's where. But once you ask for their guidance on those things, at least that you have asked them to do not believe those dark forces. And it's very humongous right now in all over the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to thank you for coming on the show. And the last question before we depart, disclosure is something that everybody talks about. And you were on a panel. You were on the panel that I hosted this past weekend. And one of the questions that I hit everybody with was this. What is your definition of disclosure, Clifford? It means so. It's got a different meaning to everybody. What's your definition of disclosure?
I was on your panel. I don't remember.
You don't remember? You were late. Oh, wait. Yeah, you want me to throw you under the bus completely right now? So anyway, Clifford, what is your definition of disclosure?
Well, disclosure is belief in yourself first, and to use discernment, and to take things that you have learned throughout many, many different sources, and disclosure would be what you have yourself from the spiritual and all the different ways of your teachings to know what is to be true, and to do not listen to anybody except those people that are the light kind, like the light workers. So I believe that once you make a group that can talk about the truth and then extend it in all directions, and it become a things that are not theorized, but actually something that you can look at it and say that based upon many deductions, using maybe even the scientific method, and also include the spirituality part of it, to say that this is the way that we're going to disclose this information and let people know about it when it's the truth. The only way that the disclosure will happen is that if it's bounded 100% with truth, rather than somebody that made it up. So that's the way I look at it.
Thank you so much, Clifford. And I do mean this. When you walk into a room, you step around a group of people, you brighten up everybody. And I want to thank you for just that. You have that ability to make people smile, laugh, and enjoy life. And please don't ever change. Thank you so much, Clifford.
Thank you. Hello.
Thank you so much, Clifford. Have a great night, my friend.
Thank you.
Clifford Mahooty. I do mean it. It's amazing. You will be in a group of people, and up walks Clifford, and he has a bright ray of sunshine that follows him wherever he goes. What a great conversation tonight. Clifford Mahooty. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'm going to open up the phone lines. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Hey, what up, y'all? Sugar Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
So you went to dinner last night, you had your favorite pasta. Ugh. Or maybe you had a heavy, spicy meal and it left you. Ugh. GetTheT.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Ugh. GetTheT.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. Ugh. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of ugh. We have so many great supplements, but our super tea is number one. GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
I'm Matt Ray with America's First News. We all know if you're planning a trip, you should shop and compare, right? But why endlessly search the web when you don't have to? Flight Services helps you find the lowest possible airfare. Talk directly to a travel pro right now for the best deals available. Their travel pros have additional discounts not found on websites, and Flight Services provides 24-hour customer service. Call toll-free 844-845-9944. That's 844-845-9944.
What's up, Fadernauts?
Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. Yeah, you know I'm going to say it. That was an amazing conversation with Clifford Mahooty. And just judging from everybody's responses here in the email, and it's just, I'm in agreement. Just a fascinating conversation tonight. One that we don't often have here. And I just want to say thank you. I appreciate Clifford and everything that he does. And if you've ever had a chance to talk to him, he's one of the nicest, coolest guys you're ever going to meet, but super, super smart and educated. And he brightens up a room. Dude walks around. I'm not kidding. He glows. He glows. And if you've met him, you know what I'm talking about. But this bright ray of sunshine follows him around wherever he goes. And I do want to thank him for the conversation tonight. All right. A couple of things. I'm going to do a little bit of a sneak announcement here. I get a lot of emails and comments about our TV show on history. History let us know today that we will be getting, allegedly, a date for the premiere of the show, which will be sometime this fall, which indicates to me September or October, and we will have that date next week. Holding them to the fire on this. The show was great. A lot of expense and time was spent on this. We shot all over the country on location, built a beautiful set, and everything that was put into this. Hopefully, this is going to premiere very, very, very soon, and we'll be able to make this announcement next week. We've been walking around just 4, 5, 6 inches off the ground today with that most excellent news that was handed down to us. So there you go. I can't wait. I can't wait for you to see it and enjoy it as well. Okay, so that'll be coming up. Also, apparently, there were a couple of trolls, or a troll. Maybe it was one person that was playing the role of two lives today. And look, everybody, you have to understand, I don't see them. Okay, I block. I have people that block. Everybody block. And so I literally don't get distracted with it, and I don't see it, and I don't get to enjoy it like the rest of you guys did tonight. But if anything like that jumps off, I just block, man, report and block, and nobody cares. Life is too short. Nobody cares. And it really sucks if you are into the trolling game, whatever it is, that the people that you are trying to aggravate don't care about you, right? That really must bum the troll out. That they, it's really funny. And so, obviously, if it's directed at the Fadernauts or at our chat rooms or in the sandbox or at me, and I'm not reading it, and most others are not too as well, then that really must suck, right? So you gotta love it, man. You just gotta love it. I honestly, I was watching everything tonight, and I'm like, man, somebody, you guys are enjoying this, and I just couldn't, I couldn't enjoy the moment. So, just letting you know. And I have no idea, so I would have to go and unblock, 1,000 people to get to whoever this is? I have no idea. But it looks like you guys were enjoying yourselves tonight and having some fun. Trolls are just bored stoners. Could be. There you go. Yeah, somebody just said, John Teeter Single 7 just said, maybe Clifford is a light being. And let me tell you something. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. There is a magic in his eyes. And when he smiles and laughs and looks at you, there is something going on with Clifford. Talk about awakened. And, he must see the world in just a panchromatic thing, just in full, vivid, living color. Just, wow. Yeah, I agree with that. How smart to ask natives about UFOs and technology. We would ask more. It's usually whites asking ourselves respect, and that's from Kim. Kim, that's actually pretty good. Don't be mocking us, stoners. We're too passive. That's what I was thinking. I was going right there. Jimmy, you have a show to run. We can take care of things out here. That's exactly it. Believe it or not, I know that's exactly what goes on. The Fadernauts, what did I post? Fadernauts eat trolls. They taste like chicken. And I do mean that. I really do mean that. You guys have my back. Have the shows back. You have the sandboxes back. You have the chat rooms. And I love all of it. That's the beauty of what we have built here. The family is impossible to penetrate. You're not going to ruffle these feathers here because we recognize what's going on. We see it from miles away. Miles away. Oh, absolutely hysterical. All right. You know what? I was going to get to some news. Let's get to some phone calls. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, Jimmy. This is Nathan.
Hey, Nathan. How are you, man?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. After Clifford Mahooty, Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah, it was a great show.
Yeah, that was just an amazing show. What did you think, Nathan?
Well, I wanted to call and say, from an experiencer's perspective, you know, you hear a lot more from Native Americans that they're much more openly willing to accept it. And it's strange that we can't find that kind of unity within our own communities.
Well, and they've been talking about this and relating to it and seeing it and connecting to it and understanding it for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. Right? They right. fully get it. And when I say get it, I'm talking about on all levels. They connect, they communicate, they learn, you know, from all of this. And that's the amazing part. We, the rest of the world, is fighting it. Not embracing it, fighting it, and trying to ignore it and act like it's not there and it's not real, and that we are alone in the universe. How absurd is that? I mean, and ignorant, right? And so you're absolutely right, man. When it comes to the tribes across this country who were here before us, right? It's that simple, man. It's that simple. You go to, and have you been to, Nathan, have you been to, as an experiencer, have you been to any of the sacred sites? Have you been to Sedona, the Grand Canyon, or Chaco Canyon, or Joshua Tree, or the Yakima Reservation? Have you been to any of these spots and observed anything?
No, farthest west. I've been to Seattle before. I've never been to any of the sacred sites. I'm from Colorado originally.
Well, everything goes on in Colorado.
yeah. I spent a lot of time in the mountains in Colorado, so I've been around what was probably, at least at one point in time, somebody's sacred land. But, you know, I lived on the East most of my life. As an experiencer, I don't know why I'm an experiencer. I'm the last person you would expect to think that they would reach out to. I don't have a lot of, I'm not so social because of it. You know, I'm not exactly comfortable with it.
Right.
But that's just me personally.
Right. Don't ever get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in that zone. With my own experiences, you know, when I see stuff in the sky, my mind is still blown every single time. It's like the first time it's a wonderful thing to experience. But I got to tell you, that thing that happened in my room back in 95, 96, I'll never get comfortable with that. I didn't dig it. No, man, I didn't dig it. I was not cool with it. I've had so many people that have asked me to regress and go back and find out what actually happened, and you know, don't I want to know? No, I don't. I don't. Nathan, thank you for the phone call, my friend, and be safe out there.
Thank you, Jimmy.
You got it, Nathan. Great phone call. Let's just stay on the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, my name is John. How are you?
Hey, John, how are you?
Good, man. Thank you very much. Calling from Connecticut. I was just curious, of all the talk with Maria and all the tests going on, has anyone had such a simple thing just as having a taxidermist look at these?
Yeah, somebody. Is that you that just tweeted this?
I did, and then I realized you were live, so I called.
Yeah, wow. That's what are the odds of getting through on the phone? You know why you got through? Because I saw that
the first time caller.
That's why you got through, you know. And I see that you're a first time caller, and I will always put a first time caller to the front of the line. And as you said that, I was reading your tweet, which says, "Hey Jimmy, might sound like a weird question. I'm not a doubter, but has anybody had a taxidermist look at Maria?" and then you turn around and call in with the same question. So there you go. The answer is
I was driven.
and you got through. Some things are meant to be. I will follow up on this for you. How's that? Because I don't know the actual answer to the question. But we're going to find out. And
I mean, I know it's a lot of the science will prove it all in the end, but it's kind of seems like one of the more obvious first things to look at is, the old jackrabbit, right? The fakes under the skin. And I'm just curious when we talk about these X-rays, and it looks like there's been no severing of the fingers. These 3 fingers look natural, and the joints seem to match and everything. That possibly has there ever been just a quick analysis of can it be faked in such a way?
Right. Yeah. And when I look at the X-rays and I look at the MRIs, what I am looking for is something that doesn't look right to me. I'm not some doctor. I don't have some crazy degree and anthropologist or anything. No, I don't know. But when I look at the wrist, and I know that there's 3 fingers there, and I'm looking at something that would look like it was cut off or something that doesn't look right in the bones, that it used to be 5 fingers and now it's 3 because somebody just cut it off and folded the skin over, whatever. That's what I'm looking for. And I don't see anything to me that looks incorrect. Now, I'll tell you something interesting. I talked to a friend of mine either yesterday or the day before that actually has looked at the X-rays firsthand. Not the video. I'm talking about putting up these 2-foot by 3-foot X-rays and is looking at it on a light box.
Yeah, right on the light box.
Right, and this is what he said to me. And this guy, and I know he's listening right now. I'm not going to say his name. This guy is one of the coolest skeptics out there. This guy questions everything. In fact, everything to this guy is BS unless we are, bringing facts forward or some type of evidence or other eyewitnesses. And he had, and he's also a show host.
So definitely doesn't believe in Santa Claus.
Oh no. And I love this guy and I trust this guy. And this is what he said to me. He goes, dude, I'm looking at the X-rays and I'm looking at the tendons. And I'm looking at some of the cartilage. I'm seeing how things are put together. I'm looking at this. I'm going, you know what? This looks real to me. This looks like 3 fingers. This doesn't look faked. There's something here that is making me question things. And so when I hear that, because I haven't seen the X-rays, but when I hear that coming from a friend of mine who I'm telling you right now has no problem in calling somebody BS and throwing them on the mat and slapping them around. In fact, he's one of the best at it, and he's usually right. Okay? And so when he...
No, Jimmy, you're right. There seems to be some real truth to this because, there's an old saying that, common sense isn't that common, right?
Ever.
And when you look at the evidence so far, it's very enticing. It's very... the people who want to dismiss it without any... right off the bat, don't really. They just want to be a one-way street. Versus the more and more you see about it, the more and more you have to really believe that there is possibly something to this.
Well, and look and see now, John. I'm glad you bring up that point because this is the truth. You cannot make a determination that it's real or that it is a hoax from the video that has been presented. You can't go in either direction. You cannot tell me it's real, and you can't tell me that it's a hoax. And everybody that is trying to make this determination in either way is not an anthropologist, is not a biologist, is not an archaeologist, is not...
Right, but it's also, it's a question of faith for a lot of people. Some people just like believing in a God that you've never met before. For some people, it's just inconceivable because they cannot believe anything else except what they have been raised to believe.
Right. And unless you are some kind of coroner, forensic somebody that has a professional background in looking at this with your eyes and be able to make some kind of decision, unless you are that, then you're not qualified to say anything. When the DNA comes in, I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified at all.
No, and the people involved, who Jamie's people, they're not making any definitive decisions either. They're just doing the scientific process, and they're doing the best they can. And like they say, they'll admit if they've been hoaxed, they've been hoaxed. But right now, what they're doing is the best they can to do it the proper way and making no assumptions.
Yep, and right now
good for them.
Yep, that's right, John. And the preliminary DNA that has come back has said that the bones match all the bones in the body. That matches the skin. It matches the tissue samples. It's all the same DNA. In other words, we don't have, I keep saying this, but like an otter, right? Or some kind of, other animal body part sewn onto this and made to look.
And I like that the DNA is more human than it is monkey, or more, like it's definitely leaning in our favor as far as, of this becoming true and what we hope it is,
Yeah, and if it comes back, check it out. What I think would be the most impressive thing to come back, John, and I know this sounds trippy, but if this comes back Homo sapien, right? I'm talking about us, but a 3-fingered, 3-toed version of us. Holy crap.
Right.
Holy crap.
Then it's like the whole new meaning to the missing link.
Oh, man.
Not even missing link. He's missing two links.
Missing 2 links. Hey, John, have a good night, my friend, and don't be a stranger.
Thanks, Jimmy. First-time caller, and been listening for a while, and I'll see if I have this luck again when I call back.
Absolutely, man. We love our first-time and second-time callers. Thank you. Talk to you, John. Thank you so much.
Night.
Great phone call right there. It's getting more and more exciting. But then again, we have to wait for the real DNA to come back. But my eyes say that the video and the evidence that has been presented is eye candy of the nicest flavor. It is just dreamy to look at. I love it. Absolutely love it, which means it's too good to be true. It is. It's too good to be true, because if it is what we think that it is one of the most extremely groundbreaking, historic moments in human history. It'll top everything. So it's too good to be true. So let's just wait for the DNA to come back, and let's see if we can move forward. And that is my position. And I love every minute of it. And if it proves to not be a hoax, just let me say this. It was bound to happen. It was bound to happen sooner or later. There you go. All right. Now, I've got a few minutes to get to some of the news that you know absolutely nothing about. First off, Kenya is in the news because Kenya has banned the use, the manufacture, and the importation of plastic bags as the government tries to protect the country's polluted environment. Anyone found in violation of the ban could be given a maximum penalty of $38,000 fine and serve up to a 4-year jail term. Manufacturers who use polythene to wrap products are exempt. The National Environmental and Management Authority said travelers coming to Kenya with duty-free plastic shop bags would be required to leave them at the airport. How is that for some big news? That is absolutely crazy. Now, the FBI are on the hunt. That's right, for 2 women who dressed as nuns during a botched bank robbery in Tannersville, Pennsylvania yesterday. You gotta love this country. Law enforcement shared photographs from the bank's CCTV footage showing the armed women dressed in full-on nun costumes. The pair entered the Citizens Bank on Route 611 in Tannersville, brandishing a handgun. Now, the women used the nun's veil and wimple to partially cover their faces. You can see it in the in the images that are out there right now, with one assailant wearing sunglasses with the nun outfit. One of the women stood at the door while the other approached the counter with a gun. The robbery attempt was cut short when an alarm was triggered by a member of the staff, and then the women turned around and ran from the bank without nothing. Totally empty-handed. The FBI said it was looking for, and this is the best part of this press release, the FBI said it was looking for 2 Hispanic women of about 5 feet tall, dressed in nuns' habits. Now, I'm not making this up. This actually happened yesterday, and that was the FBI's press release. Good luck with that. Now, I love doing this show because a space rock, and I talked about this last month and the month before, is approaching Earth. Yes, it is. And although it would be irresponsible of me to shout incoming right now, right? Asteroid 2012 TC4, and you know the name because I've talked about it so much, will pass so close to the Earth, it's going to freak you out. Now, a team of scientists from NASA and the European Space Agency, the ESA, that monitor the locations of near-Earth objects, have been tracking asteroid 2012 TC4 with various instruments, including the ESA's Very Large Telescope Observatory. Those observations have made it possible to better predict when the asteroid will make its flyby of Earth and just how close it will be to the planet. Now, observing close flybys like this also help us to prepare teams to detect a near-Earth asteroid whose course might pose a threat to our planet. 2012 TC4 will fly by Earth October 12th at a distance of about, now check this, 27,000 miles, or about 1/8 the distance to the moon. Previous observations that I have reported at here, Sister Act 2. That's good. That's funny, Lawrence. I like that. The previous predictions were saying it would be as close as 4,200 miles. When you look at the animations and how the orbit is with Earth and how Earth is coming around and this elliptical orbit that as it is amazing how close the clip is, but it's going to be quick and fast. There you go. October 12th, 2012 TC4. And that concludes another episode of Fade to Black. It is in the can. Got to thank Clifford Mahooty. Clifford Mahooty brought it tonight. Big time, didn't he? Tomorrow night, Ray Davis is here. We're going to do a full evening of Anunnaki. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Martin Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Faded by Dale. Webmaster Drew, the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Thank you to everybody that called in tonight, and of course, Clifford Mahooty. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Until tomorrow night, everybody be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.